Assembly is one of the languages that I found to be quite interesting and challenging. When I found out that I had to create a platformer game with this language, I started to freak out because it was all just storing stuff in registers, pushing and popping off stacks, and jumping to different branches. Then when I googled how to make a platformer game in MIPS assembly, nothing came up. So instead, I looked at the assignment handout, past example projects, and the slides that the professor gave to help me. From this, I was able to create a platformer game. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever played Angry Birds? Do you recall having to launch the birds to attack the pigs? Playing this game with my dad remains a cherished memory from my childhood. Now, you may be wondering why I am asking such an irrelevant question. As my final project for my CSCB 58 course, I developed a platform game based on Angry Birds. It is called Pig Panic Coin Quest. The goal of the game is to collect all the coins without getting hit by the enemy in order to move on to the next level. If you get hit, then you have to restart from the beginning. The setup of my bitmap display is like this. Now let me demonstrate what I implemented. For milestone 1, I was able to accomplish the basic functionalities. I drew the level, which includes platforms and a ground for the player to stand on, an Angry Bird player, and more than 2 additional objects such as the pig enemy and the coins. For milestone 2, I was able to implement the basic controls. As we can see, the player can press the D key to move right and the A key to move left around the platform. Additionally, the player cannot move past the edges of the screen. I also implemented platform collisions and gravity. We can see that the player is standing on top of the platforms but falls down if moving off of it. When the player goes from one platform to another, the collision remains, thus showing that gravity was handled for this project. To add on, I ensured that the player also moves with the platform when the bird is on top of it. The platform locations are randomly generated at a certain Y location of the screen. As for collision with objects, my player collides with the pig enemies. The bird turns from red to orange to show that it got hit. Additionally, when the player also collides with the coins disappear and the player's score gets incremented. Now, at any time throughout the game, the player can press the P key and it would allow them to restart the game. For my design choice, I decided that the restarting means the player gets taken back to the main menu rather than starting again at the first level, just in case they want to exit out of the game. Lastly, for milestone 3, I was able to implement numerous additional features. These include a score for when the player collects the coins. The total score is then outputted into the win and lose pages. A fail condition, which is when the player gets hit by the enemy. Once this happens, the game over screen is shown. After a few seconds, the game brings the player back to the main menu to restart all the levels again. Next, a win condition. If the player collects all the coins in the level without getting hit by the flying pigs, then they win. A winning screen will be shown. After a few seconds, the game brings the player to another page that shows the next level. Then, after a few seconds, the game brings the player to the next level of the game, which will be more challenging. 4. Moving objects. I implemented moving platforms that move from the right to left and moving enemies that will try to kill or hit the player. 5. I have 3 different levels. The first one, the player only needs to collect the coins. The second one, there's one enemy pig trying to kill you. Lastly, the third level can have 1, 2, or 3 pigs coming all at once. Each location of the pigs are randomly generated. Number 6, I implemented double jump. If you click the W key, it only lets you jump either once or twice. And lastly, I created a start menu. The player can press the A key to point to the word quit or press the D key to point to the word start. I animated it so that the Angry Bird's beak is the pointer. Now, the player presses the W key to select one of the 2 options. At the end of the game, once the player achieves all the levels, it outputs a message: you collected all the coins. This is so that the player knows that the game is done and that they successfully won the entire game. After a few seconds, the game then takes the player back to the main menu where they can have the option to exit or start the game again. If the player chooses to exit, then it will display a message, exiting, and then clean the screen to its default black color. Although I was able to complete all milestones, I wanted to mention that if I had more time to work on this, I would have liked to implement an additional feature with 3 options on the main menu. 1 to exit, 2nd to start the game with levels, 3rd is an infinite platform game where the player has to see how many coins they can get before getting hit by a pig. And that is all for my game. In my opinion, it was interesting working in assembly. I will keep trying my best and hopefully I can develop more amazing projects in the future.